Hello there! So today I wanted to talk books with you guys and basically just go through a few books that I like to read and recommend and what is sort of my book agenda next. Now, I really like reading. It's something that, especially when I was younger, I was very passionate about. I will honestly admit that over the last sort of couple of years, I haven't read hardly as much as I would have liked to read, and it's something that I want to get back into. It bothers me that I don't read as much, and it's probably between having like full-time jobs and working and social lives, it just never sort of became about. So reading is something I'm getting back into currently, but I thought I would go over some things I used to like reading and some things that I am going to currently be reading and that I can recommend to you guys. So yeah, let's get started. Okay. So the first book I wanted to talk about, which I have mentioned before, it's my favourite book, is Pride and Prejudice. Now, Pride and Prejudice, I don't really know, I can't explain a lot of the time why it's my favourite book, but I just really like it. I just find it really romantic, and I just love the characters. Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, their characters I find are really strong, and they're just characters I've always really loved. Now, because I love Pride and Prejudice so much, I also always like reading adaptions. One of the adaptions I like is Acting Up by Melissa Nathan. And basically it's about a journalist who acts in a play and meets sort of a real life Mr. Darcy. It's a really good adaptation of the book. It's sort of a modern day grown up version of it as well, maybe. And yeah, I really enjoyed Acting Up as a book. It was really good. Now there is another book which I don't have with me, called Love, Lies and Lizzie, which is a sort of current teen adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. And again, I mean, that I kind of resonate maybe a little bit more with as being a little bit younger, and I started reading that when I was in secondary school. It's really fun, it's such an easy read, and it really keeps the sort of the plot of Pride and Prejudice but in a current easy read way. So I think I'd suggest it to people that maybe can't get to grips with the language Pride and Prejudice uses, young people nowadays, but if they want to maybe hear more about the story or get into the story, Love, Lies and Lizzie or Acting Up for the slightly older generation, I think either of them would be a really good read. Now, when I was in school, I studied English literature, and one of the books we had to read was The Kite Runner by Carla Tusini. I hope I'm saying that right. And I really enjoyed the book. However, we also got recommended to read his other book, and one of them was 1,000 Splendid Suns. Now, this is probably, this I prefer so much better to The Kite Runner. I do really like The Kite Runner, but I picked this book over the two. This book is about two women who become unlikely friends, and they're both sort of suffering the hardships that they go through within Afghanistan. It's really powerful and emotional book. I mean, if you don't like crying and getting emotionally attached to characters, I wouldn't suggest this at all. But if you're quite happy to have a good cry and to really get emotionally involved in a story, then 1,000 Splendid Suns is a fantastic read. It's such a powerful story, and it's one that will stay with you for a very long time afterwards. So pick this up. If you have not read it, it's fantastic. Now, I have not read this book yet, but one book I am eager to look forward to reading is another book by Carla Tusini called And the Mountain Echoed. This book is about, again, Carla Tusini writes a lot of his books, well, actually every book, the other two books and this one, all seem to be based, let me just check, I'm got this right, in Kabul, which is a city in Afghanistan. So it's, I really like them because they're so abstract to the world that we live in the Western world. So reading just novels like this are really enjoyable, and it kind of opens your eyes to the life they have out there. So for example, this is a quote from this book, maybe one that got me interested, by The Times, which says, "A story of love, separation, friendship, compassion, exile, memory and the troubled history of Afghanistan, spanning 3 continents and 60 years. Hosseini is a master storyteller." And so this is on one of my next to read. I'm really looking forward to it. However, I always am a little bit in anticipation now if I'm going to read one of his novels, because I know that they're emotionally evoking, so it's sort of like be ready to have an emotional breakdown when you read them, basically. So that is on my next to read list. Another book I wanted to just talk about that I like reading is Judy Blumeslubber. Now, I read this first of all when I was in primary school, and I don't really know why I liked it so much. I really liked it, and I read it again in secondary school, and I found this in a free book box the other day, and I just had to pick it up. I have yet to reread it, but I'm going to, and I think maybe the reason I picked it up in the free, but obviously it was free, but one of the reasons I did pick it up was I resonate with it a lot, and I reminisce of childhood. This book just reminds me of being a child, so I really can't wait to sort of reread it, and it will take me back to my childhood days, really. So I'm looking forward to having a reread of that. I can't remember the ins and outs of the stories now, I just know that I loved it, so this will be reread very shortly. Keeping in the fiction, I'm going to just mention the Darren Shan series of The Demonitor. This is book 2. This is book 2, Demon Thief, which I'm currently reading to my boyfriend at the moment. So I have read there's 10 books in this series, and I've read them already, and it's such a fantastic series. Now, Darren Shan, I was introduced to him via the Vampire series. This is much more teen, I would say, like teen towards young adult. The Vampire series, although it has a lot of sort of deaths and gore, it's nowhere near as gory as the Demonitor series. When I was reading the third book of the series, actually, when I was younger, I had to stop reading it for a while because I was so scared, and also I got so upset by an event that happened in it. It wasn't even a massive event, but it was just something that it shocked and scared me, so I didn't read it for a very long time. But I eventually finished reading the series, and it's such a good series. So there's 3 sort of main characters, and some books are from different point of views. This book is from a different point of view to the first book and the third book, and it all links in really nicely. It's a really clever story. Darren Shan is one of my main inspirations to becoming a writer. He's one of the reasons that I always wanted to write stories. He's a fantastic storyteller, just the way in which his stories are told, and yeah, I really look up to his storytelling, and the Demonitor series is one that I think, no matter how old you are, it should be read. It doesn't have, just if it's young adult fiction or teen fiction, it's still something that I think anyone of any age would appreciate. Okay, another, well, I don't know if to say fiction or not. I'm going to say fiction. Book that I really enjoyed is The Other Bling Girl by Philippa Gregory. Now, this book is the story of Mary Boleyn, who is Anne Boleyn's younger sister. Now, I feel like I'm not 100% sure accurate in my saying this, but I feel like it is a fiction book because it's maybe, I mean, some of this stuff did happen in history, but it's been dramatised, it's been fictionalised, and it's a really good book. Now, when I read this, it did take me a little while to get into. It's quite wordy, so I wouldn't say I was hooked straight away, but when I got into the actual depth of the story, it was really, really good, and it was just a fantastic story of sisters. Something about history that I really enjoy is the royal family, and especially Henry VIII and the Tudor era. It was such a fantastic era to learn about, and I love reading stories like this. So yeah, this is a great story to read. It is also now a major film featuring Scarlett Johansson, and this is where my love for Scarlett Johansson started. I just adore her now, and it was basically because she played the character Mary, who I adore in this book. It's definitely a little bit hard to get into, but the book is by far better than the movie, so I wouldn't watch the movie instead of the book. I would read the book. I mean, watch the movie as well. It's great if you like watching it. It is a great movie individually, but the book is far more detailed. It's got far more structure, and it's got far more story to it, I think. So definitely read the book. Moving away from fiction, I just wanted to mention I do quite like reading some non-fiction books. One that I really enjoyed was Judy Walters' Autobiography. That's another story. Now, I really first started enjoying Judy Walters' acting within Harry Potter, obviously, as Mrs. Weasley. And I don't know, there was just something about her I really liked. And then I watched a couple of other things she was in, one of which was Driving Lessons with Rupert Grint as well. And I just found her really funny, and I really, really liked her. So I decided to get her book and have a read, and it's actually so interesting. It's really nice to hear about her life and sort of her ways of becoming an actress. It was just a really interesting read. So I think the way in autobiographies go, I would recommend this book. I also now, because of this, want to read other autobiographies as well. It wasn't boring like I kind of thought it could be. It was interesting and it was lively and fun. So yeah, I've picked a couple of other autobiographies that I've got to read. I've got Tina Fey's and I've got Miranda Hart's that I want to read. Yeah, but this was all what started my autobiography like, so definitely one to like. The last book I want to talk about is a series of unfortunate events at the bad beginning. Now, I've got all the books of the series, which are here, and I got them all when I was little. Now, I can only remember reading up to book 6, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what book I got to now, but when I was younger, I got to about book 6. And I never continued. And it was such a long time ago now that apart from the first 3, because I've read them and I remember from the movie as well, I can't remember what happened after that. So I have decided that I want to go back to the beginning and read the book. One of my sort of goals is I want to read all the books that I own. Now, I've had this series for such a long time and I still haven't read them all, and it kind of seems stupid that I keep buying books and have these books unread on my shelf. So I'm going to start this series and carry on reading this series next. I mean, this book, for example, is quite a short book, and the wording's not too small. It's not too small as well, so I can't imagine it would be a very hard book to get through. And I remember when I was younger, there was a girl in school and she had books for 11, and I was like, oh my god, that is so thick. I would never be able to read that. Obviously I was about 9 at the time, but now it'll be fine to read something like this and then carry on through. So I'll definitely do a big series review of the whole series, and possibly, I mean, it's probably going to be a bit different reading it now as an adult compared to when I read it as a child, but I have quite a nice imagination, and I just really enjoy children's fiction, no matter how maybe young it is. Obviously not children's, but I enjoy teen and young adult fiction, so definitely I'm really looking forward to rereading it. I really enjoyed it as a youngster, so that's on my to read list. So I have got 4 books that I'm going to be reading, and I can update and review them when necessary. And yeah, that's my sort of what to read recommended, some sort of books of what I like to read and what I'll be reading next. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time and look forward to the reviews. Bye!